SMG4 started in around 2011, where a young man named Luke Ludijovic, sorry if I butchered the name, started his channel with The Cake is a Lie, and still to this day is one of, if not the first SMG4 episodes he's ever done. For the time, actually. But over the years, Luke has made content so popular that it shook the world forever. Who Let the Chomps Down was one of his biggest hits, if not his biggest hit of all time. It was one of his most iconic episodes, and it came out at a period where SMG4 was doing its standards with his golden era. Freddy Spaghetteria is also a perfect example of SMG4 in his good career. This career sparked a whole new generation for the series as we know it. Luke introduced new characters to the series, with Fishy Boopkins being in The Boat Trip, which is Mario's boat trip, and he was a great character for his first appearance. And Bob also got introduced, which, fun fact, was 9 years ago. We're getting old at this point. Bob was introduced in Can Dick Ganondorf Come Out to Play episode, which was another one of his big hits. But everything would change if Mario Was in Splatoon came out and introduced Meggy. Formerly known as Inkling, she's called Meggy. And this episode sparked a whole new generation for characters. This one episode changed Luke's life forever. And it was a pretty great-ass episode, not gonna lie. And then they introduced another female character to the series. Her name was Saiko. And it was pretty great for an anime character to make her appearance. And it's from, I think it's a fan-made character or something, I don't know. But yeah, she was introduced in Doki Doki Mario Club. And then we also got introduced to Tari in 2018. She was a lot better than all those other characters. I mean, Tari, when she first appeared, it was another great moment. And she even got her own series, which I'm not going to be talking about in this video. But let's just say her first appearance was good. And the list goes on for characters that made appearances throughout the series. I'm not going to explain that all. I'm probably going to do it in a short or something before the series ends. Oh yeah, and speaking of which, the SMG4 series will be ending on December 27th, 2025. And the announcement that was made a couple weeks ago shocked everyone, including myself. And because of this, the channel will end with one final movie on the 27th, and then the series will end, and the channel will be up as is, but Luke will stop uploading videos for the channel for the time being. And so we enter an era where SMG4 comes to an end. But why am I saying this in this video? Well, another thing that SMG4 is known for is their arcs. These arcs have been what has kept SMG4 up and alive for quite some time now. So today I am going to be ranking every single arc in SMG4 history. Yeah, you have read the title clearly. And these arcs all started with Waluigi arc, which was a pretty... I'm not going to spoil how I rank them. You can check it on my shorts tab. And the arcs have been quite liked over the years. Waluigi being their first arc they ever made. And for the time, we're going to save that for later. To the staggering anime arc that lasted about 9 episodes, which was another, well, I'm not going to spoil how I ranked them, but you probably already know my ranking by the shorts I made. This arc was also a part of the 17 SMG4 arcs. Wait, 17? Yep, that's right. There have been 17 SMG4 arcs, and all of them were so, well... You can probably know where this ranking. If this is not your typical ranking video, this is a final swan song video for SMG4. Not my final video for SMG4 overall. But I'm doing this in honor of the series ending on December 27th. By the time you're watching this, it's currently December 8th, 2025. And there have been 17 arcs in SMG4 history, from Puzzle Vision to Waluigi to any other arc in the series. 17 arcs to rank in this video. And because get ready for one hell long of a ranking. I'm going to be ranking every single SMG4 arc. I will also make individual videos for the arcs after the series ends. So anyways, let's jump right on into it.
Disappointment in the game of life.
And the worst SMG4 arc goes to... Oh boy, this arc, in my opinion, fucking sucks. Yeah, in my opinion, the Rapper Bob arc is the worst arc in SMG4 history. Period. In my opinion. I know everyone else loves this arc, but I'm one of those people who say, oh yeah, this arc is so bad. Now, there are some good moments, but I'm going to save the good moments for last. And this will be segments and bits from the arcs. I'm not going to cover all the episodes, just the episodes that I remember the most. So, let's begin. Now, keep in mind, I'm not going to go into premise of every episode, just the ones I remember the most. So this one is Mario and the Well. And from episode standpoint, this is a good episode, but it kind of gets downgraded later on. So let's talk about this episode that truly starts the arc. So Mario and SMG4 are doing their usual antics when they notice that they hear a sound from the wishing well and Fishy Boopkins is inside a well. Comedy, right? We'll see about that later on. But yeah, the premise is they need to get Boopkins out, and I'm not going to spoil everything, but just a spoiler here, at the end of the episode, Bob saves Boopkins, and and he does his little diss track, and he advertises a diss track that he's doing and whatever. Yeah, even this arc is kind of forgettable for me, but yeah, most of these arcs are kind of forgettable. Well, some of them, the bottom three, spoilers. So yeah, this arc already has a rocky start, but we'll get to that later on in this review. But then we get to the Mario concert, and this is where I think that Boopkins and Bob are kind of at their worst, in my opinion. You'll see why in a moment. So the premise of this episode, Bob, Luigi, and Mario get tickets to go on a plane to do like a show or whatever when an unexpected guest arrives, and spoiler alert, it's Boopkins, obviously. Bob is performing, and Boopkins decides to ruin the set, which kills some people. And this gets Bob extremely pissed. And, oh boy, this next part, in my opinion, I think some of you guys like this, but this next part, I was just furious. I wanted to throw my phone into the wall when I first watched this. Then you have your whole character saying, oh, it's kind of like a liar reveal trope. It's just like a betrayal, and we have the usual friends betraying each other seen in every movie, and TV show. This one just pisses me off, because Boopkins did not mean to ruin Bob's set. Because, what the hell is Bob doing? He says all these mean things to Boopkins, but it's just not funny. I did not cry over this. And what makes this worse is that Bob literally caused so many of these events to happen. He caused Fishy Boopkins going in the well. He caused that. He caused Bowser lighting himself on fire, and then Maggie burning the kitchen. He also caused, throughout this whole arc, he caused these events to happen. It wasn't me, I swear. What the actual hell? And Bob was a villain. What the fuck was that? You had to retcon this whole thing? Why was this arc even made in the first place? This is not just an arc. This is just filler. Sorry, I had to raise my voice a little bit. But then in the Maniacal of Fishy Boopkins, after that whole train wreck of an episode, well, not train wreck, there are some parts that were good about it. After that, SMG4 tries to cheer up Boopkins, and this episode was kind of mid in my opinion. The whole episode is just the crew trying to cheer up Fishy Boopkins, but then we get another bad moment, is when Bob performs, and this once again allows Boopkins to go free and cry himself silly. Yeah, and that's when Meggy and Tari cheer him up a little bit. They see him on the ground, and then they talk some slack, and then cheer it up, and then, yeah. Ah, man, this episode. Well, not as bad as the previous episode. This episode was kind of mid, in my opinion. But remember when I said there were good moments from this arc? Mario and the diss track. This episode was the foundation for, like, songs for the series. Well, Waluigi kind of started that, but more on that later. But we did get 2 songs in this episode that I think that really much saved this arc. I mean, look, Bob's diss track is mean, but I actually kind of like the roasts in this. I mean, unlike those previous 2 episodes, those were just kind of train wrecks. Besides the last episode, this episode was actually pretty good with raps. Bob's rap was okay. There were some parts I liked and some parts I didn't like. But moving forward, we also have the best moment in this episode. And I know what you might be thinking. What could be the best moment in this episode? Well, you probably guessed by now. Darkest Hour. This is one out of 2 good things about this arc. The Darkest Hour just hits so hard to the point where you even have to listen to Saiko's vocals. Everyone performing in this song just makes Bob feel jealous. And, like, Saiko, like, I mean, she is one of my favorite characters in the series. And I'm not going to play the whole thing due to copyright. I'm only going to play, like, a portion. No, I'm not going to play a portion, but yeah, this rap is just good. You can see it for yourself on YouTube by looking this episode. This is, if not one of the 2 good things about this episode. This episode overall was actually pretty good. The other good thing to come out of this arc is the Christmas special, which it's one of the better SMG4 Christmas specials there is in the series. And this is after the events of the previous episode. So Bob is feeling lonely on Christmas, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's kind of like Home Alone, but not Home Alone. But however, I did like the cameo by Waluigi / Walurambo, kind of. It was not really a Walurambo cameo, it was just kind of a great cameo, and I'm gonna play it right here. This is when Walurambo comes out. He still has powers, and it was pretty good seeing him again. The ending was also pretty good, but yeah, the ending was pretty good. But the rest of the arc is forgettable. But 2 things save it, which I already mentioned, the Darkest Hour and the Christmas special. A pretty good way to end the arc, but this arc was just fucking horrible. Worst SMG4 arc ever made. There are other things I want to say, but this segment is lasting on for too long. This arc fucking sucks. Besides those 2 things I mentioned, Darkest Hour and the Christmas special, this arc could go die in a fire. Bye, bitch. This arc is trash, and that's why it ranks last place. Last place. I really hope the next arc could be slightly better than this.
Objection!
Well, this just subverted expectations. The lawsuit arc is kind of bad, but also had good moments. Unlike Rapper Bob, this actually has a lot more good moments than I can remember, so let's talk about it, shall we? So the lawsuit arc began with SMG4 gets sued, and the whole premise of this arc is that SMG4 gets sued for using Nintendo characters. That's it. And there are some episodes that I like. Mario Gets Sued is mid. All because of this fucker. Because Lawyer Kong, it sounds great on paper, but he's kind of forgettable. Yeah, he was kind of mid for me. A mid SMG4 villain, besides Waffy, which we'll get to in a few moments. And Mario Gets SMG4 gets sued is a pretty decent start to the arc. We also got If Mario was in Splatoon 3, which, oh yeah, I'm showing the ad at the beginning. Haha, error. We also got the return of Inkling Meggy in this arc because they made If Mario was in Splatoon 3, which is a pretty good episode for this arc, but I'm not going to talk about it because If Mario was in episodes probably do not set anything up for future arcs, so yeah, I'm not going to talk about it. Moving on. But it just continues with Nintendo gets, well, not Nintendo, but Nintendo has claimed this video is another episode that I merely kind of forgot a little bit about, besides the ending, which is another shock point to SMG4. Lawyer Kong actually signs the contract and then wins. He literally wins, and all of the non-Nintendo IPs die. Even all the powerful characters, and Meggy also dies. Which, she is a Nintendo IP, but kind of not. She's an Inkling from Splatoon, but not a Nintendo IP. In this universe, anyway. All of the non-Nintendo IPs go to die, and then we have to wait until the next episode. Next up, we have Goodbye SMG4, which, it aged pretty well, I guess. Yeah, this episode kind of aged pretty well. Let's talk about the ending real quick. The ending with SMG4 saying goodbye at the beginning was good, but the ending where Lawyer Kong and it all gets set up for War of the Fat Italians 2022, it was pretty good, with the return of a familiar face, Lawyer Meggy, which is probably one of the, if not the better Meggy designs in my opinion. But going back to that beginning, this is also another good/sad moment from the arc, and the fact that this arc kind of predicted SMG4 leaving, and his line saying, "Thanks for watching SMG4 for so long," it just hits harder after the announcement. And the scene where Luke, real life Luke, I don't even know how to say the last name, moving on, and Luke deleting his channel is one thing that actually aged pretty well in a bad way. This scene predicted SMG4 retiring on December 5th, and he deletes his channel just like that. But yeah, this scene actually hits pretty well after the announcement. And then we get to War of the Fat Italians 2022, the penultimate episode of this arc, and the final episode with SMG4's classic design. And can we talk about that rap battle real quick? The rap battle is also another great moment from this arc. While not as great as some of the other rap battles from previous arcs, I really kind of like this one in my opinion. And it was also another saving grace from this arc. All the other episodes were kind of forgettable, but this one was actually pretty good. It had so many rap battles and so many callbacks to previous episodes, foreshadowing again maybe, but yeah, let's just get to the moment. Yeah, this moment where SMG4 gets his redesign, this is the most one of, if not the most controversial things he's done, and it's probably one of the reasons why he retired in the first place. Besides Nintendo suing him. But this is where SMG4 gets his redesign, which at first, I kind of liked it, but it actually aged pretty well after that. And SMG3 also got a redesign. And two other characters got redesigns, and it's Bob and Boopkins. They also did kind of get redesigned because they're Nintendo IPs. Bob is from Legend of Zelda, and Boopkins is from Super Mario, Spike, rather. And they both get redesigns too, which, yeah, not as great as SMG4 and SMG3's. But Bob's is probably better because of that fucking thing. And SMG4 is kind of ugly with that first redesign, but I'm going to cover his second redesign when we get to later on this list. But yeah, overall, this arc was kind of mid. Some of the episodes were forgettable, but War of the Fat Italians was not forgettable. And it had pretty good moments, pretty action-packed, but yeah, this arc, kind of mid. And kind of bad, yeah. And yeah, that's why it ranks so low on this list.
Remember, kids, anime is gay.
Saikosis is a great song. Oh yeah, I'm spoiling myself. The Meme Games arc is just a one and done thing. And it's kind of good for some parts, but the most part, like with the other two, are bad. Let's get into why. So the Saikosis or Meme Games arc begins with this door, which was actually foreshadowed back early on in the She's Back episode where Maggie comes back, but we actually get more to this door. And it's not like we've seen secret doors before in other fiction like SML. Don't talk about that. But anyway, this episode, I mean, for the most part, it was that. I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say about this episode. This episode kind of had some bad parts, but every part with Melanie, like, especially always gets me, man. Melanie, anytime she's in an episode, it obviously makes it better. Especially paired up with Bob, those were kind of my favorite moments from the episode. And every time Melanie's on screen, I just go gaga over her. And yeah, long story short, Mario opens up the door without anybody noticing until later on. And then we get that same computer we saw in the arc in the next entry on this list, which I will cover after. We get introduced to Kaizo. Or Kaizo Kori, I don't know how to say the last name. And he is basically kind of like Psycho. Or kind of like that. They're kind of related. Let's just say that. And after this discovery, Mario says this game is a 0 out of 10, and then Psycho comes out of the complete shadows and tries to kill the Avatar. Hey, spoilers for later on the list, but no, that does not end up succeeding. And then we end off the episode where Boopkin says, Psycho's from that game. We should get Kaizo out of there too. But Psycho doesn't want her out yet. We'll have to see in the next episode. In Mario meets a demon and is shortly beheaded, we get the introduction for real this time of Kaizo, who was actually leaked back in 2021. But this episode actually reveals him. And first off, I love his design. But second off, his personality in this whole arc is kind of not good. I like his design, but his personality is just off the roof. And he's actually one of the least liked characters in SMG4 history. And yeah, you'll see why. In this episode, Psycho and Kaizo are basically kind of villains. Psycho doesn't want to be a villain, but she does anyway. They break in getting random stuff. And that's what pisses off the people so much. Yeah, they're basically crazed up a little bit. Yeah. But enough talking about this episode. We gotta move on to the next episode. Throughout these next few episodes, like Mario Gets Lit, Psycho and Kaizo are still there with Mario trying and with the gang doing antics. But it's not until one of the later episodes in this mini arc. At the end of Mario's TikTok challenges, which yes, is part of this arc, yes, it is a part of it, we get the reveal of Mario's secret plan, which is a game show called The Meme Games, which is not Wattfee. We already talked about that in the previous entry on this list. Yeah, The Meme Games, which is a one and done thing. After this episode, he did not do any meme games ever again. Yeah, what a good episode this was. Well, let's get to my favorite part real quick. Like this part where Psycho's trying to get Melanie there, it's kind of awful for her, kind of. And then we get to the challenge, which I believe this might be my favorite animated scene in SMG4. Well, one of, if not my favorites. This is the challenge where Mario does something very illegal. He builds he has like a fucking giant, I don't even know what to call it, robot. Everyone tries to fight, but Mario is indestructible. He captures all the crew, puts him down, and then we get Saikosis' song. And this is the part where Psycho gets her, well, you'll see, redesign. And the animation kind of cooked in this part. And for 2022, animation was pretty good, but this, I believe, is one of my favorite animated sequences in SMG4 history. It, probably like top 20 favorite scenes in this whole saga. Even though it's just Saiko getting her redesign. The animation on her getting her redesign is absolutely sick. And it's probably, if not one of my favorite redesigns in SMG4 history. I might make a whole short video on it. And yeah, long story short, they defeat Mario, and Saiko looks sexy with her new design. It's one of, if not the better SMG4 redesigns. It's probably better than SMG4 and SMG3's 2022 designs, and it's miles better than Meggy's. Yeah, and the whole ending where Mario is seemingly defeated and put back into a stupid random mode, and they beat Mario up, and Saiko comes to terms with Kaizo, which ends the arc like this. And they perform their Saikosis song, World on Tour. And I'm not going to include the song because that's copyright, but the song is pretty good, and I like it. Yeah, and yeah, this arc was pretty good. Saiko getting her redesign was good. Everything else, forgettable, except for the Do Not Enter episode. But yeah, this arc, I believe, was one of the, if not the middest arc and the one-time done arc. Yeah, the meme games is honestly pretty fun, but not a great enough arc for this story.
I think anime is amazing, okay? I think it's the greatest thing since anything in the whole world.
Oh boy, people are gonna be pissed at me for this, but I got the anime arc at number 14. Yeah, this is where this list kind of gets tricky for me. Anime arc, I mean, in my opinion, some episodes were forgotten. But yeah, the anime arc is just kind of mid for me. We get introduced to Francis. More about him later, which Francis, we'll talk about him later. Yeah, basically, this arc is kind of forgettable for 2 episodes. But one character appeared in this arc who would be a major character for about a couple years. This is Axel. A character that was kind of forgettable at the time, but when he showed in the 2020s, it was more than good. Axel is a great part of this arc. And yeah, he is my favorite SMG4 character, but I'm going to explain him in a later date. Besides, the first almost 2 episodes were forgettable until Axel's introduction. Yeah. And Axel is a pretty good manga artist. That's his entire character. He draws manga. He signs people's contract, and yeah, he basically is one of, if not the more powerful SMG4 characters we had. We also kind of have a Meggy-centered arc in this as well, with kind of a center point for this arc, which I'm gonna skip the video real quick. This is low quality, by the way. This arc is all about anime and Splatfest. There are 2 things mixed together. And Desti also kind of makes her debut kind of in this arc. I think she appeared earlier on. And this is half anime, half Splatfest. And the Splatfest plotline is pretty cool, but yeah, it's kind of forgettable for me. Kind of. But it's not until the final 2 episodes where things really go to shit. Francis just becomes an evil asshole and brings Meggy down into a kind of collider thing, and we approach Anime Island, which pretty mid, to be honest. So, and we also get Sephiroth in this arc. He will be important for one major event I will talk about in a few seconds. Francis and Sephiroth kind of have a great deal together. Francis is an asshole, especially Sephiroth. Yee. So, long story short, SMG4 and the crew dealt with the gang. Everything was good until Sephiroth killed Desti. This is what puts this arc above those 3 previous arcs. When I saw this, I was legit in shock. I was, and this is the part where I hated Francis. Francis and Sephiroth, especially, 2 of the most hated SMG4 villains of all time, killed Desti and ended the episode on a fucking cliffhanger. Like, dude, this is one of, if not the saddest moments in the series. You killed my beloved Destiny. Why would you do this? I mean, she wasn't that memorable, but even though you can't kill anybody, SMG4, yeah, this will be more than later on this list. But Destiny dying was another highlight from this arc. Like, I was legit in tears for 30 seconds, but then I just forget about it afterwards. But then the final episode kicked in, and oh my god, this was one of if not the most important episodes in SMG4 history. So, long story short, they have a huge epic battle where they destroy the collider and seemingly free Meggy. And long story short, Francis gets defeated by he gets defeated by Shaggy. And he summons Goku, but Axel summons Shaggy. And this is why Axel is a powerful character. Shaggy and Goku fight a little bit, and it was pretty good. But it ultimately goes to shit where Psycho is just a diva. Psycho wanted to do this all along. And this is one of my favorite SMG4 deaths in history. Psycho punches the button and activates Maximum Zuck and puts Francis in a collider, seemingly killing him. But I don't know where he goes from there. Yeah, seemingly kills Francis, and as the whole building collides, Meggy kind of self-destructs a little bit. Meggy self-destructs, and everybody, yeah. But then we get to another moment that made my jaw drop. I did not think that Meggy was gonna die here. Everyone seemingly think that Meggy was dead, but then this is the part where everybody's jaw dropped. Meggy's new redesign. And, yeah, that's 3 times I've talked about redesigns in this video. They're all commonly in this video. But Meggy's redesign, the first ever SMG4 redesign. At the time, people were mixed, including me. When the first time watching this, I was literally in shock. Meggy is a human now. Yeah. But the ending where that Destiny Memorial happens also hit me really hard. And it all sets up in a final arc movie, which I'm probably going to be talking about, but I'm not going to spoil the whole ass movie. But they put up a funeral for Destiny, and that sets up another plot point in this arc. Meggy's Destiny. A movie about Meggy winning the Splatfest, obviously. She wanted to do this with Destiny, but now that Destiny's dead, Meggy is gonna win Splatfest. And the plot points are pretty good. That whole scene with Meggy and Axel was one of, if not the only moments they interacted together. And then we get to the actual Splatfest fight, which, oh my god. It was pretty ugly animated at the time, but as time passed, I seemingly like the scene even more now. And yeah. Oh shit, ad. And long story short, Meggy wins the Splatfest. Yes, she wins at the end, and yada yada yada. And we get one final moment where I think that's Destiny's ghost appears, and then yeah, they both sit down, and it's probably, if not one of my favorite scenes in SMG4 history. Meggy's last moments with Destiny, talking to her ghost, saying goodbye. Thank you for the memories, Destiny. And yeah, this is pretty much an emotional end to an arc that I really loved at the time. But over time, this arc kind of got forgettable, and Destiny's death was kind of a shock at the time. But now, I look back and I say, what a number 14 spot for this list. This arc had some of the greatest moments, but also some of the other episodes were forgettable, and that's why it's so low on this list. And Mario X Meggy is not canon yet.
I don't have friends. I got family.
Oh boy, this is gonna piss a lot of people off. Oh boy. The Karen arc. Let's talk about it. The Karen arc, why I rank it number 13 on the list is, well, I mean, some of the episodes were great, but there was one thing missing. Where the fuck were the other characters? I mean, this arc is great for most people, but I personally think this arc was kind of mid. I mean, it had some of the great SMG4 moments and some of the worst. It's kind of the equivalent of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Kind of like, it's better than TASM 2 in my opinion, but this is pretty much The Amazing Spider-Man 2 for the SMG4 series. So yeah, the first episode, Hobo Mario, is good. The center plot point is Karen and the kids trying to find a new home after they are forced to leave their home, and we get Monopoly Man. I don't like this character now. I used to like him, but now I hate him, man. Why did they have to do this to Monopoly Man? I like... So yeah, long story short, they try to find a home, but they just find a box shelter. But this moment with Karen, Zach, Corey, and Katie was pretty much why I ranked this arc a few spots higher than the anime arc. I mean, look, this arc is more memorable than the anime arc in my opinion, but everyone else probably might anger me in the comments. But this just whole scene with Karen getting emotional, like, I did not know Elsie Lovelock was such a good actor. More on that later. But yeah, this whole scene was just so golden, and the kids hugging her made it even better. But much to say, there are more great scenes in this arc. The next episode is kind of the worst, the least my least favorite episode from this arc. It's the equivalent of the Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's mid. That's all I have to say. There are some good parts about this arc. The whole Karen going for SMG3 and SMG4 thing was kind of lame at the beginning, but over time I kind of liked it. But then we get the introduction simultaneously, kind of like a character that you probably know my channel with, Mr. Puzzles. We get introduced to him, Mr. Weapons, who does not show his real body until we go to the Minecraft game. Which, speaking of that, we first got a fight scene with SMG4 and Big SMG4 while Karen tries to find the man Mario responsible for this. More on that later. But then we also get introduced to Mr. Weapons via a Minecraft game. And I love those Minecraft designs so much. But when Weapons first appears, his design, I mean, it was good at the time, but then it aged like fine wine. We'll get to his real design in a moment. And I just, like, the voice on Mr. Weapons is so good. Gianni Matrigano deserves an award for being the best, for being one of, if not the better SMG4 villains, in my opinion. More on that later. But anyway, the Minecraft plot was pretty good. But the ending, we'll talk about that now. The ending where Karen goes and beats the shit out of Mario, and he says, "Oh yeah, we're done. Playtime's over." And then he just slaps Mario on the crouch. That was a really good clip. But the next episode, Enough is Enough, is kind of a really good episode compared to the other two. It actually has more lore than you expect. And, yeah, it's pretty great than expected. And the whole Mr. Weapons aiming at Karen in the SMG4. Mario is literally the equivalent of every SMG4 villain now. Mario seemingly... We'll talk about that later on the list. So yeah, Mario is responsible for most of the villains. That's pretty much the only downside to a lot of these arcs. But yeah, much to say, there are some good moments, like the Karen and Mario scene in this episode was kind of good. But then we get that ending, where Karen finally interacts with Mr. Weapons' hand, reuniting with her father, which is probably, if not one of the best moments in 2025 SMG4, but not the best. I'll explain that when we get to the next two arcs on this list. But anyway, this cliffhanger was also pretty good, and Mr. Weapons going to see Karen, waiting for him at his house, which gets revealed in Silence of the Cats. And this is where we get Mr. Weapons' new design. Well, his design. And it's probably the best design we've ever got. Compared to his Minecraft look, I think this is what Mr. Weapons truly looks like. And he's basically a mix between Niles and kind of Mr. Puzzles a little bit, but yeah, he's literally the equivalent of Niles and One Shot Ren, which I will be talking about later on this list, spoiler alert. But yeah, Mr. Weapons is a fantastic villain for this movie, but there are some parts that kind of last a little too long. This is why it ranks, and this is why Silence of the Cats is my least favorite in the Puzzle Vision saga. It also has some of the, if not the best moments in the series. It's kind of mid for me, honestly. Yeah. I mean, did we really need all this filler with Karen and the kids and Mr. Weapons? I mean, it kind of felt like a normal SMG4 episode, during this moment. I mean, personally think the outside scene with Mr. Weapons and Karen, hot take, kind of it lasts a little too long, but I like the scene where Mr. Weapons kind of interacts with Karen and such. And the kids going on misadventures, it kind of lasted a little too long. We did not need this much filler. Come on, man. Yeah, but then the scene hits where Mr. Weapons says, "You want to go on a special mission?" And that's his entire character. But I really do like the scene. It's probably better than the Bob scene from the rapper Bob. Don't talk to me. I won't talk about that scene ever again. No. But yeah, this scene where Mr. Weapons kind of interacts with Karen, it's literally the opposite of Boopkins and Bob. It's pretty good seeing their relationship go downhill. Yeah, it kind of does the same thing as Bob and Boopkins, but a little better, but it's kind of still mid in my opinion. But then we get to Mr. Weapons and the kids going on missions. And remember when I said that SMG4 and the crew were not in this movie? Well, one scene where SMG4 appears was this scene right here, and that's kind of not great for SMG4 scenes. I would have loved to see more of the crew, especially Meggie. I wanted to see her kick ass with Mr. Weapons. More on that later, but that's what kind of pisses me off a little bit, besides those other few things I mentioned about this whole arc. It's the lack of SMG4 characters. SMG4 and Mario barely get any, they do get screen time a little bit, but only for about 2 minutes, and that's what pisses me off about this arc so much. Anyways, still good though. But however, when Karen shows up, the real shit begins to settle. As Karen and the kids go fight against Mr. Weapons, and another emotional moment, kind of. But then we get to the final fight with Karen and Mr. Weapons, which is another top 20 SMG4 fight of all time. Go argue with your therapist. But anyway, Karen activating Wolverine claws, but Mr. Weapons seemingly beats the shit out of her. Until the kids, yes, they get superpowers in this movie. Didn't I forget to say that? But yeah, it's one last stand with Karen and Mr. Weapons, and what could you think happened? Mr. Weapons obviously loses. He shoots the bomb straight up from Corey's bomb, and then Karen goes for the final blow and blows up Mr. Weapons. And yeah, after a little bit of stompage from Karen, we get this another emotional scene with Karen and the kids. Pretty cool. But I'm not going to talk about this scene because we got to talk about the real best scene of this movie. It starts with an ominous voice saying, "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue?" And his dialogue kind of sounded like a distorted version of Brendan Blabber's voice. And when I immediately saw this scene, I thought it was the Shadow Man talking, kind of. And it's revealed to be my boy, Mr. Puzzles, which I will talk about a little bit later. But overall, this arc was mid for the most part, besides those facts I mentioned. And this arc was basically a kind of a mixed bag, some of the best and some of the worst, like all the other arcs on this list. But yeah, it does not come out without its flaws. The minor usage of SMG4 characters kind of puts this arc a few spots lower. And it's the worst arc. It's my least favorite arc in the Puzzle Vision saga, but yeah, what could say otherwise? It's the Karen arc. Go watch it.
One more day to revolution. We will nip it into the...
Alright, the Waluigi arc. The very first one that SMG4 ever made. The one that started the whole thing. Now, this arc is pretty memorable for some people, but for myself, it's kind of memorable and kind of not. So the whole arc revolves around Waluigi being disowned from Smash. And Waluigi is not a character in Smash 5. And this came out during Smash 5's release. Before that. And Waluigi did not get added to Smash. And so then Waluigi makes a deal with Master Hand, which I'll talk about later. But Waluigi gets a sick new form, which everybody calls Walurambo. And this Waluigi design is perfect. Perfect down to every little detail. And yeah, it's the rejection power, because he uses this to destroy anybody, which this is the first SMG4 villain, which I actually purely like. We'll get to the other episodes later. And speaking of which, Mario and the T-Pose virus is another fantastic episode in this arc. There are some bad moments in this, there are some mid moments in this episode, but overall this episode is pretty good. And the T-Pose virus, is, I mean, do I even need to talk about the T-Pose virus? One of, if not the best episodes in SMG4 history. Yeah. Oh, fuck off, Ad. But yeah, long story short, the T-Pose virus gets defeated. I will not talk about it. Go watch the episode for yourself. And like I said earlier, this also introduces Tari, who would later become a main focus for any arc to follow after this one. I mentioned her earlier, so let's move on. Mario, the Ultimate Gamer, would be a very important episode for this arc because it introduces Tari, and she would later become a main focus for the arc. This episode was pretty good, had some good moments, had some bad. Again, I really don't like the animation of old SMG4 in some episodes. This one not being one of them, I guess. But overall, this episode was still fine. Tari is the best character in this whole arc, and yeah, her going from shy to god, which we'll talk about in a moment, is pretty cool indeed. But once we get to the Waluigi Carnival, this is where things really heat up. Meggy returns in this episode, and this is the episode where Meggy and Tari first meet. And this is where Mario and SMG4 go at a carnival. After playing some games, they finally meet, and it's a pretty cool moment in the series. Meggy has that squid design, and Tari has a regular girl with claw arms, and I really kind of like this episode. It's pretty good for a pretty funny episode for this arc, and probably one of the most important episodes in SMG4 history, don't deny it. So after playing the duck game for a few moments, this is where Tari gets her obsession with ducks, and literally destroys the game with her arm, which would later be Clench. We'll talk about Clench a little later. And after that whole game, Meggy becomes furious at a second, but then they became best friends. Yay. And I just like Meggy's expression there. The OG Meggy, it was so good, but I like the new Meggy better, so deal with it. But yeah, this is when they became best friends. Let's talk about the rest of this arc in general. This video is going to be too long. Once we get to Mario and the Waluigi apocalypse, story short, the T-Pose virus returns. Somehow. Watch the whole episode to find out. It's all due to Waluigi. But yeah, this whole episode was pretty good, and I don't want to talk about it because it's spoilers. But I'm going to talk about the end, where Waluigi gets set up for WotV 2018. I won't explain how that happens because, damn it, this video is lasting too long, and two, this arc is too long, so I don't want to talk about it. The T-Pose virus returns somehow, and then I won't tell the exact premise of the episode because that's spoilers. So if you want to see this, go check out the episode in the links. Well, not links. I won't be posting links. I will be not doing that. So check the episode out at your own pace. But then we get to War of the Fat Italians 2018, where Waluigi is the main villain of this arc. And like I said earlier, the rap battle. I mean, one of, if not the better SMG4 rap battles. It's better than 2022's. It's just iconic and just so damn good. And yeah, this whole rap battle was good. And all the other characters beating the heck out of Waluigi. Not going to tell you how that happens. But yeah, long story short, Waluigi gets defeated. And by the power of friendship by Wario and a little Dr. SMG3 segment, who was totally not foreshadowed to be a villain, redeems Waluigi. And he still has Wall of Rainbow powers as shown in the Rapper Bob arc. But yeah, this is where Waluigi and Wario go back to terms. And the arc ends there. And a little teaser for Meta Runner, but let's not forget it. Let's not talk about that now. So anyways, this arc had a really good ending with Waluigi and Wario finally getting redeemed. And that's why it ranks so high on this list. Besides the teaser for Meta Runner, which I will talk about in a future video.
Real, as they spare 10 minutes to establish a bad guy who's just like the hero, but evil.
Yeah, the YouTube arc is good. That's all I have to say. So, Mario Spicy Day reintroduces SMG3, who is already a villain in classic SMG4, but this is where he gets his moment to villain shine. Mario Spicy Day is your typical Mario episode with SMG3 lurking in the background. Snitch Productions is introduced, and yeah. And SMG3 is not a villain in this one, but he becomes a villain later on. But boy, there are some bad moments in this arc. Let's talk about them. The one character I dislike, is Susan. Susan, longest name ever. I really hate her. I don't know why. I mean, Susan is my least favorite part of this arc, and I just, I don't know why this character exists, but everyone thinks she's good in their opinions, but in my opinion, Susan is so bad. I mean, her YouTube remote is pretty good though, but everything else about her character sucks. I don't care. Moving on. In I Can't Believe It's Not SMG4, we get introduced to the side characters that were villains, later on side characters. Rob the Scarecrow, Jub, Wimpoo, Belle, and the Melon, who is Melanie. Yeah, this is where Melanie gets introduced, and at the time, she was a melon. Yes. Rob the Scarecrow was pretty good, kind of Bob. Wimpoo was kind of Psycho, and then Melanie, who would later become... I'm gonna save it for when we get there. Come on, guys. You know I love Melanie with all my heart. I love her so much. Not in this arc, but we'll see in the later arcs on this list. The Internet Graveyard is also another great episode for lore. This is where we get reintroduced to Axel, and we get the Internet Graveyard, which is gonna be a major focus. And didn't I forget to mention that this is the first part of the Cosmology Saga? And for a first part, it's actually pretty good with lore, but we'll get to the lore when we get to one of the later entries on this list. So, in Mario vs. YouTube, they successfully get the remote from Susan, longest name ever. SMG3 tricks Mario and decides to use it for his own good. And some stuff went in the Internet Graveyard as well. But SMG4 is furious when Mario teams up with SMG3, steals the YouTube remote, and yeah, everything goes to shit. And SMG3 can literally do whatever he wants. But Mario, remember when I said that Mario was the cause of Mr. Weapons and every other villain? This is another example of Mario being a dumbass. In Deleted, we finally get to see how the YouTube remote works. And this is another important episode for one of the later arcs on this list. So, SMG3 just does a plan where he uses the YouTube remote and literally is God. But I think my favorite moment in this episode is the old videos they go through. It's going to be a long explaining video. I won't explain how it works. Just watch the episode to go out for yourself. Or check out a theory video on how the YouTube remote works, because I don't have time to explain this. Let's just get to the best parts of the arc. In a totally normal SMG4 episode, which is not normal by the way, we get some more hijinks with Mario and the crew versus SMG3, and let's just say it doesn't end well. Go watch the episode for yourself. Yeah, this video will contain major spoilers for all the arcs. Didn't I mention that already? But yeah, long story short, after a whole bunch of hijinks, they get defeated. And then goes for the annual Wattfee battle. War of the Fat Italians 2020. This was one of, if not the better Wattfees in my opinion. Not going to explain the whole premise because I want you to find out for yourselves. If you are new SMG4 fans, I don't want to get the entire plot point out of the way. But long story short, rap battle ensues. Meggy gets a new voice. And this is the first time in this arc, didn't I mention it? Meggy gets a new voice actor. Her first voice, to be exact. Lizzie Freeman. And this is also the arc with the YouTube remote. It's kind of at its full potential. Ooh, foreshadowing. But yeah, after a whole bunch of shorts, SMG3 gets defeated. Along shorts of time, SMG3 gets defeated, and the crew is happy. But then there's a scene with SMG3 in the Internet Graveyard, and yeah, that's how this ends. We get SMG3 with his new podcast, and that's how the arc ends. Bit good, but yeah. Excuse me. But yeah, overall, this arc was pretty good. Some forgettable moments, but yeah. This is where I truly began to like, wow, this animation's good. And this is where arcs really get in their combat scary. And yeah, this arc is pretty good. And another banger for SMG4. And yeah. Oh boy, what am I going to do now? Rank the top 10? You bet I am.